Mame fa say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there osia dem yopo.
They are complaining about the level of enrichment of uranium. Under American provision, the Iranian nation enriched uranium to the level of 95%. Can you believe it? Under American provision, Iran enriched uranium to the level of 95%. So, what has changed? So, America cannot be, in principle, opposed to an Iranian nuclear program because it started that program. And it started that program and continued to provide assistance till Iran reached 95% enrichment. What is the noise about? I can't believe it. In any case, let us still, for shaggy reasons, agree that the U.S. is truly opposed to Iran's nuclear program. It doesn't want Iran to develop a nuclear weapon. Fine, let us agree. Isn't it strange that the strongest opponents to Iran building a nuclear weapon was one of the first people they killed in these attacks? The Ayatollah is the one who issued a fatwa that it is a crime against Islam to produce a nuclear weapon. Iran has not produced a nuclear weapon today because the Ayatollah insists that Iran must never produce a nuclear weapon. And yet he's the one they killed. So what is happening? I don't understand. Something is missing in the equation. You understand? I simply don't understand. Something is missing in the equation. Now, there is something else which is completely baffling. They went into this war, and Donald Trump and his advisors said, oh, in 3 days, this war will be over. We'd have achieved our objective. Then they came back and said, it will last 1 week. Then they came back and said, 3 weeks. And then it kept, And then at one stage, they started telling us that it will take for as long as it takes. Infinity. No end game in sight. As of yesterday, some Pentagon officials were calculating that the war could end at the end of September. I mean, these people, they went into a war. They had no end game. There was no plan to end the war. They just went and dropped bombs. How reckless can they be? They just went and dropped bombs. Did not think about the consequences. Just drop bombs, kill children, kill women, and so on. Unbelievable. But this is what the United States of America is doing. My brother, at one stage, Donald Trump and his co-criminal, Netanyahu, were telling us that, look, they are waging this war against Iran because they want to liberate the Iranian people. Not so?
Yeah.
The Iranian people are suffering too much. They want to liberate them. First day, they killed more than 100 school children and teachers in a primary school. Today, the investigation is pointing to the U.S. Army. Killed more than 100 children, women, teachers, killed them. So is this how to liberate the Iranian people? On the streets of Tehran, innocent people who are not with the military, who are not with the police, who are not in government, are being slaughtered on a daily basis. This is Donald Trump's idea of liberating a people. I can't believe it. Mother, something else is happening which is most significant. A few days ago, I think 2 or 3 days ago, Donald Trump told the world that he has to personally play a role in the selection of the next leader of Iran. And the world is sitting down looking at this guy. He, Donald Trump, President of the United States of America, wants to appoint the next leader of Iran. And there's a clear betrayal of the imperial motive of this aggression against the Iranian people. Clear betrayal. And then he goes on to say he doesn't even know the difference between Venezuela and Iran. He goes on to say that the model which was used in Venezuela is the same model he intends to use in Iran. This guy is illiterate. He's illiterate. How the people of the United States of America came to elect this guy as their president is shocking. The US, which had Kennedy as president, the US, which had Abraham Lincoln as president, the US, which had Barack Obama as president, even Biden as president, now ends up electing Donald Trump as president. He's so confused, it's unbelievable. And then he comes up again and says that, oh, as for the trade Strait of Hormuz, the United States would open it and that the world should not worry. He does not understand. You know something? The Iranians, without shooting at the Americans, without shooting at any vessels, if they go and sink their own ships, a couple of them in the Strait of Hormuz, it's closed. So how can anybody guarantee free passage in the Strait of Hormuz? It's so easy to close. Even verbal threats that if you pass there, we'll fire, we'll close that strait. Donald Trump doesn't have the capacity to open the Strait of Hormuz. And I think it should be clear to us. And because he doesn't have the capacity to open the Strait of Hormuz, we are going to suffer the consequences. Already in Europe. Why? 2 days ago, there were long queues in European capitals for fuel, long queues. The price has not even hit $100 per barrel, but there are long queues there. And we are all sitting there and allowing him and the bunch of rascals around him to do as they please. Jay, something very significant. Spain. Spain is an ally of the United States of America. And Spain says, we would not allow you to use your military bases in our country to attack. They don't think, they are crazy. So, this is the head of state of America speaking to his ally. But the most important thing is that Donald Trump then says that whether you agree or not, we will come and use those bases and do what we like in your country. You can go to hell. Do you understand the full implications of this? The US is ready to violate the sovereignty of an European country which is its ally. Whether they agree or not, they will go and use their facilities and they would attack another country. And we are sitting down, we are looking on and so on. Now, the contradictions are so many, it's unbelievable. This is Donald Trump sitting as chairman of a so-called Board of Peace in Gaza. Look at his conduct. So what kind of peace is he bringing to Gaza? This is the chairman of the Board of Peace.
Conduct of war.
Chairman of the Board of Peace in Gaza. Unbelievable. But hold on. Which war has the United States of America won in history? This is a country that has never won a war, in spite of their so-called military superiority and so on. They went to Vietnam. What the Vietnamese gave them a beating. They had to run out of Vietnam. Vietnam beat them completely. They had to run. Why? They went to Iraq. They killed 2 million people. They killed 2 million people in Iraq. At the end of the day, they had to run out of Iraq. They went to Afghanistan, and Afghanistan is not Iran. They went to Afghanistan, an underdeveloped country, and so on. They hit them so badly that when they were leaving, they actually left their weapons, their helicopters, and so on behind. They were running out of Afghanistan. Why? They tried to invade Cuba. They were beaten, and Cuba is a small island. Small island. Only a few kilometers from Florida. They tried to invade Cuba. The Cubans beat them so badly, they ran. They left their equipment behind. They ran away. So, which war have they won? Which war have they won? But, again, that is not the end of story. They went to Iraq under the pretext that Saddam Hussein actually had weapons of mass destruction. What weapons? But they say weapons of mass destruction. Okay? They attacked Iraq. They killed 2 million people, only to find out that there were no weapons of mass destruction there. They had killed 2 million people already. Okay?
Yes.
For the last 10 years, and that's, I'm trying very, very careful to be modest. For the last 10 years, every year, Netanyahu comes to us, looks us in the face, and says that Iran is on the verge of producing a nuclear weapon. 10 years. So Iran has been on the verge of producing a nuclear weapon for 10 years. Oh my goodness. How is that possible? The irony is that Israel has a nuclear program, and Israel has produced a nuclear weapon. So if nobody should produce and hold a nuclear weapon, why is Israel having nuclear weapons? Why has Israel not been attacked? If the possession of nuclear weapons is sufficient grounds for launching military attacks and so on, why has Israel not been attacked? Because Israel has the nuclear weapon. So this whole thing doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense at all. Look, today, on the streets of New York, on the streets of Philadelphia, on the streets of Washington, American citizens cannot buy food. American citizens are eating from soup kitchens. American people have no access to accommodation. American people are dying out of curable diseases and so on. This is the state of America. Indeed, the last report that I read, national infrastructure in the United States of America is collapsing. Their bridges have become old. There's fear that these bridges will collapse. Their roads are old-fashioned. The railway system in New York is in shambles and so on. And yet, the President of the United States of America decides to commit billions of the taxpayers' money on killing Iranians for no justifiable reason. The people of America have to wake up. The people of America have to wake up. This is how their tax dollar is being expended on a useless war, which brings no benefit to them, which only fuels the ego of a power-drunk president. And the people of the United States need to wake up. The people of the United States need to wake up and change this situation, because it does not benefit them in any way. Especially the Chicanos, the Latinos, the Africans, and so on. They are at the worst end of this bargain. Check the population of Africans in the United States in terms of proportions. See how many Africans are in prison, black Africans are in prison, as opposed to the Caucasians in the United States of America. The American stand-up comedian Richard Pryor, I went to one of his shows in 1979, Richard Pryor's show. And Richard Pryor says, what? They say there's a lot of justice in the US. Huh? That is why when you go to the prison, it is just us. This is Richard Pratt. They should listen to Martin Luther King. They should listen to Jesse Jackson. They should listen to Richard Pratt and so on, and take action to improve their own conditions. Because if they stay aloof as they do now, people like Trump, people like Marco Rubio and others would destroy their country for them. There's another aspect of this whole business, that I intend to speak about. And my brother, it is very simple. Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and so on are bearing the brunt of this senseless aggression against Iran. Why? Because they've allowed the United States of America to establish military bases and facilities in their country. So we, the people of Ghana, must understand clearly that if you allow others to come and use your territory to establish forward operating bases and military bases, when they go and engage in reckless action, some will touch you. You cannot escape from the consequences of their action. And that is why we must begin to think and plan a massive mobilization of our people against the U.S. military base in Ghana. That defense pact, which the Akufo-Addo government signed with the Biden administration, must be thrown out of the window. We must begin to take our destiny into our own hands. Only 3 nights ago, I was reading the final resolution of the Tricontinental meeting in Cuba, which involved African states, Asian states, and Latin American states, all of them. And they passed a resolution saying that none of our countries should allow any other foreign power to establish any military base on our soil. That's the charge we must follow to the end. The other day, I heard that the French military had come here to assist us to fight Galamsey. My goodness, where did that come from? Ghana. You need lessons from France to fight Galamsey. What a joke. Somebody should tell me why France should come to Ghana and teach us how to fight Galamsey. It's an excuse. Their target is the Sahel states. They want to gather intelligence to enable them to encircle the Sahel state, to subvert the patriotic revolutions in the Sahel states. And we, the citizens, have a responsibility to make sure that it never happens. We must speak out loudly. We must make the point that any government, and I mean any government, whether it's a CPP government, an NDC government, or an NPP government, which allows the establishment of military bases on our soil, cannot get our mandate. It's an important issue for us. Especially when they go and sign such reckless agreements with states, for example, that we in Pan-African television, when we use the national frequency, we have to pay. But when American soldiers come to Ghana, that frequency is available to them for free. Somebody should tell me the justification for this. When they go and sign an agreement which says that when American soldiers are coming into Ghana, they don't need visas. They don't even need to carry their passports. All they need to show at the entry point is their U.S. Army card. How is this justifiable? When they go and sign an agreement which says that when American soldiers come and carry out operations in Ghana, and Ghanaian property is destroyed, we cannot go to court. When they go and sign an agreement which says that when American soldiers come to Ghana and operate, and they kill Ghanaians, we cannot go to court. When they go and sign an agreement which says that the president of Ghana, when the U.S. is carrying out an operation from Ghana, the land on which they are carrying out the operation, the president of Ghana cannot set foot there. He's banned from setting foot there. How does this agreement make sense to anybody? Why? You think that Ghana doesn't have interest in the U.S.? We have interest in the U.S. At least we have many citizens in the U.S. Will Ghana be allowed to establish a base in the United States of America. And if we will not be allowed to establish a base in the United States of America, why are we allowing them to establish a base in our country? So look, we have to wake up. Our silence has consequences. Our silence has consequences. And we should refuse to be silent in matters that affect us and affect our destiny. You will be surprised, Jay. Many of our leaders, parliamentarians, ministers and so on, when these issues arise, they don't talk. You know why they don't talk? Because they are afraid that if they talk, they will not get visas to visit the US. That's the only reason. Visa to US. So they keep quiet. And when they are compelled to talk, they talk such nonsense you can't believe. That any people who have gone to school, have a little sense of history and dignity, will talk that way. In any case, I think it is time to remind ourselves that Iran is not Afghanistan. Iran is not Venezuela. This is a country of 80 million people.
Almost 90.
They have never been conquered. Throughout history, they have never been conquered. The US armed Saddam Hussein to attack them. He failed. He couldn't win. They have never been conquered. It's a country of proud people, patriots. It's a country of people who are determined that they will not submit to the hegemony of any other power, anytime, any day, anywhere. And we should understand that very, very clearly. We should understand that this war is between two categories of people. One category of people who actually want to die so they can go to heaven and enjoy paradise. And another category of people who want to live at any cost so that they can eat hamburgers. This is the distinction. You understand?
Yes.
I mean, when I hear some of these Western military analysts, I laugh. 3 days ago, they were saying that the intensity of the Iranian fire has slowed down. So it means that the US is winning. What crap analysis is that? If you were an Iranian general, would you throw all you have now when we are being told that this war could last up until September? And this whole bluff about the power of the US and so on, my friend, US, they say it's all powerful. It is a paper tiger. You know why it's a paper tiger? After 3 days of war, they started complaining that their munitions are finished. 3 days of war with Iran, not with China, not with Russia. They are complaining that, hey, man, we have to take care. The ammunition is getting finished.
Not even North Korea.
Yes. Now, they are planning to go and take their defense weapons and so on from Asia to bring it to the Middle East because they are running short. They don't know that when they take them from Asia, that place also becomes vulnerable. Look, what is happening is an affront, first and foremost, to US law. Because under US law, no president has the power to declare war without the approval of Congress. Trump and his friends think that they are being smart. So they say that this is not a war. Can you believe it? They say that this is not a war. This is a military operation. They are learning from Putin. Because if they call it a war, they will be in breach of US law, of internal domestic law of the United States of America. But whether they call it a war or whatever, we know that this is a full-scale war. They've moved their heaviest weapons to the region. If this is not a war, what is a war? It's a war. And because it's a war, they have breached internal US laws. But they're also breaching international law. Because under international law, you cannot wage this war against another country without the approval of the UN Security Council. And the UN Security Council has not sanctioned this war. So this war is an illegality on all fours. Complete illegal and justified war. And we must speak out. All of us. Every one of us. Well, you think that I'm unmindful of the consequences of speaking out? I am. As I'm speaking, I cannot forget that they killed Patrice Lumumba for saying things which were milder than what I'm saying today. They killed Patrice Lumumba. They dissolved his body in acid. I know that. I know that they killed Chris Hani. I know that they killed Salvador Allende. I know they've killed so many of our leaders since the time of the transatlantic slave trade. But, my dear friend, my countryman and woman, if we stop talking, we will be slaves. If we talk, a few of us may be framed up, a few of us may be imprisoned, a few of us may even be killed. But then, we would have hope that one day we would achieve liberty. That one day, our grandchildren will live as free men and women. That one day, we'll be able to take over our resources and manage these resources in our interest. Do not be afraid to speak out. Do not be afraid to stand against the bully. Do not be afraid to mobilize so that we can build a new world in which the color of your skin does not determine your destiny. This is a charge we must fulfill. And we have to do that with courage, with determination and conviction. We will win against the forces of imperialism.
We come to Mr. Pratt.
Well, for me, sitting where I'm sitting this morning, the most important thing is that nobody, no country, no region can escape from the consequences of this reckless war, which has been imposed upon the Iranian people by Netanyahu and Donald Trump. As we speak, as we sit in this studio, 2 Ghanaian soldiers are in critical condition, having been injured by an Israeli assault on Ghana's United Nations mission. This is clearly an affront to Ghana. In the last war between Hezbollah and Israel, Israel attacked the Ghanaian base, destroyed Ghanaian equipment, and so on. Ghanaian soldiers were under attack. I think the time has come for the government of Ghana to speak clearly. The time has come for the government of Ghana to state its position on what is happening, at least with regards to what is happening to Ghanaian soldiers. We sent those soldiers there to go and make a contribution to world peace. We cannot keep quiet and refuse to take action when they come under attack. Unjustified attack. We must speak out. I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, what have we said to Israel? Israel is constantly attacking the Ghanaian position. What have we said to Israel? Why is the Israeli ambassador allowed to walk about freely and to talk all the nonsense he's been talking for several years? By now, the Israeli ambassador should have been summoned and given a strong warning that Ghana would not tolerate attack on its troops. Israel must understand that we would not tolerate any attack on Ghanaian troops. And the message must be strong and clear. I'm shocked it hasn't happened yet. You understand? But it must happen. And our government must understand that its first and foremost responsibility is to the Ghanaian people. Our government must understand that very clearly. Why? We voted for this government to protect our interests. And the protection of our interests must involve the protection of our troops wherever they are. So I'm waiting to see what action the Ghana government is going to take on this matter. Now, beyond the reckless attack on Ghanaian peacekeepers by Israel, there are many things that are happening which will have consequences for every nation in the world. You see, already, the price of petrol is moving towards the $100 per barrel mark. If it does, every country's economy will be affected, including Ghana. I'm told by the analysts and so on that the price of gas would increase even more dramatically than the price of crude. So, what would the consequences be for all of us? My colleagues have already spoken about the importance of the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's energy resources pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The disruption of that passage will have serious consequences for all of us. European countries, Asian countries, Latin American countries, and African countries. What is our position on the war? I mean, as an African, I was very deeply embarrassed when I read the AU statement on what is happening. And the AU conveniently jumps into the middle and calls on all parties to respect international law and so on. What a ridiculous position for the AU to take. But that's the AU position. That's how spineless African leaders have become. Africa no longer speaks loudly in the interest of its people. Africa no longer speaks for principle and so on. And I'm embarrassed. This is not the Organization of African Unity that Kwame Nkrumah, Modibo Keita, Sekuturi, and others wanted to construct. And I'm very deeply embarrassed by the position which was taken by the AU. In any case, let's be clear. What is the US and Israel claiming to be the reason for this reckless attack on a sovereign state? The US and Israel started off by saying that, look, we don't want the Iranians to acquire a nuclear weapon, to make a nuclear weapon. That's the position, okay?
Yeah.
And apparently, what they're saying is that this is in opposition to the Iranian nuclear program. Check the facts. This nuclear program was started in 1957. It's not new. The Iranian nuclear program was started in 1957. It was started with the assistance of the United States and the Western powers. In fact, by the middle of the program, the United States alone had trained more than 4,000 nuclear experts from Iran. Germany was supplying parts. France was involved, and so on. 1957. Now, there's something very, very significant.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Pratt, for your submission. We've been joined in the studio by Mr. Michael Niyabo Anand, who is a member of the National Democratic Congress Communications team. Mr. Anand, your take on the U.S., Israel, and Iran conflict.
Open a list here and your viewers. But I must say, after Kwesi's submission on this, there is really not much to say. But to look at this issue from a certain angle. Well, the dollar has been battling other currencies on the dollar index for some time now. It was doing around 98, 95, 96. And then all of a sudden, since this past 1 week, is doing so well. Again, the reasons why oil all of a sudden is going up, I think we all know it is based on this war. It is not going to benefit Russia because Russia has been closed out of the European market, which used to be its main market. And then here is the US, whose WTI all of a sudden again has shot up. The Texas index for oil and all that has shot up. And then we have these countries who are allies of the US, and the US have found their bases in there, military bases in there, whose economy thrives on the fact that they have the protection from the US and therefore there is security. We can talk of Dubai, we can talk of Qatar, and what have you. All of a sudden, their tourism is plummeting, is coming down. Everything is going haywire for them economically, because the assumed protection that they had all of a sudden is gone. Iran is able to hit them at will. And I must say that Iran has been mostly responsible in this war, that they had targeted assets of the US. If there have been any fallout, they are very minute. And even that, they are saying that, well, the hotels we hit, you have your people in there. That is where they are lodging. And therefore, they are right to hit those hotels. Unless you can tell us that, well, there are no US citizens in those hotels. The ports they are hitting, these are ports that can be used against them. Again, their intentions were clear. This is not just a battle on the battlefield that is being engaged in. It is an economic war as well. And that is why they would have also closed the Strait of Hormuz. So, for me, I ask myself, if you consider yourself an ally of the US, and everything is against you, from economics to security is against you, then what is the sense in becoming an ally of the US? It makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. Again, the foundation of this war, nuclear. Are there not other countries who clearly claims that they have nuclear weapons and warheads, and they even actually conduct tests and all that? Have the US found it necessary to attack them? The North Koreans openly have said, we have it. We are developing more weapons to that effect. So when we talk of imminent threats, who are those? They have shown that they have the capacity and capability to fire a weapon from North Korea all the way to Florida. Why are we not attacking them? Because it will not make any economic sense and there will be no benefit to it. The US told us all that they have hammered Iran and have destroyed their uranium enrichment program, that it will take them years to have recovered to the position they were before. That is what they told us in their so-called 12 days war or so. Nowhere to verify. Iran did not respond in the manner they are responding today, that war was cut short. There was talks going on. So, what's changed? Has Iran developed the capacity to quickly develop uranium to a level that is threatening to the world? I just don't understand it. That you said, Ishfan, I have destroyed whatever they are doing there. Here, I have destroyed whatever they are doing there. Are they saying they have any evidence? And have any evidence been brought to us? Because that takes our minds to other nations that they have attacked with the excuse of them having weapons of mass destruction. They attack Iraq under that same pretext, killed the president of Iraq, claim they have dismantled, and up to date, Iraq cannot be called a safe state. You have Iraq being taken by almost every interest. The US have an interest at part, Iran has part, others. I mean, you have destroyed totally that country. Again, Israel and Netanyahu. This man always have stories. And it sounds to me clearly that he has something on Trump. That it's so incriminating that Trump cannot say no to his nonsense. And this one man has been allowed to destabilize the entire region under the cover of Christianity, which is a lie, absolute lie. But you see, we all can't say it because some of us still believe that what we see there as Israel is the biblical Israel. And this is Christians under attack from Muslims and what have you. Again, it is nonsense. It is nonsense that nobody in this world can hold that small country to check. That small country called Israel to check. And they can act as and when they deem fit. Again, most of the international trades are going down, but Israel indexes are going up. So somehow, somewhat, it is benefiting them. It is in their interest to do what they are doing. But is it in the interest of the rest of the world to suffer this baseless war? Because whether we like it or not, with time, we will all be affected. We will all buy fuel at a certain price we shouldn't have been buying it for. And therefore, I think that we must relook at this UN thing again. Is it really necessary? If others can flout the international laws at will, and others are subjected to it. Look at the number of people killed in Iraq. And, well, although we cannot verify the reports, I am not really hearing about the military people dying. What we are hearing about is civilians, children, women, have been the target of this war. But, well, when a president appoints a minister or a secretary of war, and within some few days in war, will go to their biggest manufacturers of weapons and tell them that you need to spark it up. You need to produce more weapons. Even in 3 days, you need to give us what we need. It means they weren't prepared for the war. They went into this war not prepared. They went into this war underrating Iran. And when Iran said, I have not even fired my current modern weapons, what I am giving you is the old stock, because I need to clear my old stock, then we are in for a long haul. And that is where the rest of the world must speak up. Israel and US cannot just take the rest of the world for a joke. Because compared to what is happening with Russia and Ukraine, what has the US not said about that war? How did the Europeans stood against this war? We are not seeing their hands strongly against what is going on. Assuming it is similar. It was not a war that just started. It was a war that consistently for many years, Russia complained that don't get to my doorsteps. Don't bring NATO to my doorsteps. We have an agreement. This is a war Trump went to bed. I don't know which tea he drank, got up, and they felt, let's go and hit these guys. And like Uncle Kwesi said, the man, the dove in Iran, politics, who has always stood against going nuclear, was the first one they hit, was the first to be killed. And people must understand the Shia Islam well. That to become a scholar, somebody people will follow and read your works and all that, you would need to develop an opinion. And this is a man whose opinion consistently developed over the years was not to go nuclear. But that does not mean that looking at the demography of Iran and their issues with water, they can't build hydro like we have. They can use generators that are more expensive to produce electricity. And so if they have uranium, certainly it is fair to look at producing energy with that. So, is it the use of uranium the reason why they are being attacked? Or is it an evidence that they have or they are on a program developing it for the purposes of a warhead? That cannot be ascertained by anybody. This war started, and if there is some iota of truth in everything the US have said as justification to go into this war, clearly, I think we should be seeing signs of it. At least they should put a little in one of the warheads before they fired it to Israel, because they are able to hit Israel at will. Again, the issue about Lebanon, and I think that is another part of it that has been somehow blocked from discussion. Look, after the Hezbollah-Israeli war recently, there were agreements. Israel was not supposed to occupy Lebanon, southern Lebanon. It is Israel that has violated everything in that agreement. and have remained in southern Lebanon. Virtually, they are controlling part of southern Lebanon. And when the people see an opportunity to fight you because you are weak, people are saying, oh, why is Hezbollah getting involved? They have every right to get involved because tactically, they are still at war. The reasons an agreement for this ceasefire has not been respected by the Israelis. Again. So Israel should be called out for what it is. They have become lawless. Absolute lawless. And no one can check them. They have the US in their pockets. And it's as if the US is the UN. And whatever they say, that is what stands. Everybody else is a slave. That cannot be possible in this modern world. And for me, I will predict that they will lose this war again, as usual. But this war, unlike the others they have gotten involved, that did not affect them economically. This war will drag the US back 50 years, if they care to know. They will be shut out of the economic bracket by the time they are done with this war. And also, it will not be their choosing again when and where this war will be ended. It will not be their choosing again. They have lost that. And we will encourage the Iranians to be strong, to stay together, and to fight this war. I don't know what the US have that everybody is afraid to tell it to his face. That they are wrong. And they are being bullish. And that cannot be accepted any longer. After they were hit, they claim Russia is providing information to the Iranians. Has the US not given weapons to Ukraine? So what are they complaining about? The US has become like spoiled children. It must be them and no other person. And that cannot be a modern world. We are not in the 1940s again. And they must be made to understand that. News coming in that they have hit UNIFIL in Lebanon.
Dedi kama amena PENDREAM TV ase. Na so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.